Hi, Happy New Year. This is Lori. I know that I haven't used this form in the past, but I thought it would be a new way to meet and greet basically my readers, and I just thought it would be a great way to recap my 2017 on my fashion blog, and I just wanted to go over my favorite 10 posts for 2017. So let's get started with number 10, and I chose the Wren's Nest in Atlanta, which is my hometown, which some of you know and some of you don't know, I'm sure. And it's the author's home of Joel Chandler Harris, and he wrote the books from the Song of the South by Disney. Well, he actually wrote the books that are called the Uncle Remus stories, which that movie was loosely based on. So that's, I don't know, he just touched me in a lot of ways as a kid because all of his stories were taught in the oral tradition and they were handed down through the generations by storytelling, like over the campfire, and that kind of spoke to me because I started off as a communications major and then segued into English. So the fact that he used a different way to collect his stories spoke to me, as well as he was friends with people like the Carnegies and the Rockefellers, and it was the Carnegies' influence that made him turn the house into a museum and give it over to the city of Atlanta. So that's a little bit of history on that. And I just was excited to be there. And the docent was so pleasant and helpful. She actually took pictures of me for my blog because I was alone on that particular outing. And she even directed me to a local restaurant that was really yummy. So you know, it was kind of like a coming home vlog. So that's sort of why I chose the Wren's Nest as my number 10 spot. For my number 9 blog, I actually, blog post, I should specify, I chose the Ponset Bridge in Landrum or Travelers Rest, South Carolina, depending on who you are. And it is the oldest surviving bridge in the state of South Carolina, and it's also voted the most picturesque spot in South Carolina, which I would have assumed would be in the low country somewhere, but it's not. It's this old bridge that connects Greenville and Asheville, and it was engineered so well that they actually built the modern day road parallel to the old original road. And one of the things that was surprising about this particular location is it does look like it belongs in a castle somewhere in Europe as opposed to being in South Carolina. It actually was done with true masonry work where they actually laid the stones together in a puzzle-like manner, so they had to be chiseled to perfection so that they would fit the grooves naturally together without the use of mortar. So it was really a spectacular display of handiwork. So that was a wonderful, and the temperature was perfect that day. It was just really a beautiful day. And for my number 8 selection, I chose Fashion Incognito. And Fashion Incognito I chose because it was my first attempt at trying to copy one of my fashion icons. I have always loved Audrey Hepburn. She's probably my favorite actress of all time, and she definitely influenced my sense of style. It's why, especially a lot of my early blogs, I was in a lot of suits because I wanted to dress like Audrey, and who wouldn't want to try to wear a French twist and put on a suit for the day? However, I was surprised when I reached the exhibition that cut cinema to fashion to cinema, or cinema to film, or cinema costumes to cinema, I think it is. Cut Costumes to Cinema is the website. And I was surprised when I got there, and they really feature period films from the late 1990s and beyond. So it was movies like The Duchess, Sense and Sensibility, and Phantom of the Opera, which are movies I own in my personal collection, and they are beloved favorites as well. So I really love the attention to detail, and since I've sewn since the age of 5, I was able to appreciate how much handiwork went into each and every costume and every stitch. So it took them hours and probably a crew of people to make that happen. And for my number 7 slot, I chose the Oconee Station State Historic Site. And the reason for my choosing that particular location was not only am I kind of a Revolutionary War buff, and there are not a huge number of Revolutionary War sites in South Carolina, although there's a lot more than I would have thought. There's probably triple to quadruple what I would have thought. But this was an original trading post and stagecoach stop and post office, but station is actually kind of a key term for a small fort. It was too small to be considered a fort. So they were the only defense against the Creek Indians. But the reason why I chose it had nothing to do with its history. It was actually due to the fact that Oconee Station was a true adventure. GPS got it all wrong. They steered us totally the wrong way. And so my 2016 Honda Accord's kind of low to the ground, and I was going over fjords in it, and it directed me the wrong way. But we still managed to make the best of it, find the outpost in the woods, and we even came down the hill to find Oktoberfest in Walhalla that I'd been wanting to go to for the last 11 years, and I finally made it. So that took up my number 7 spot. For my number 6 blog post, I chose Two Christmas Bells in Pendleton, South Carolina. And it's kind of the hub of the textile industry at the time. And it was established in 1790. And I really have to hand it to the Pendleton Historic Foundation. They do a Christmas event every single year. And every single year you tour different historic homes. So you don't always get the same mix. And this year they featured the 2 grand dams, the 2 bells, however you want to word that. And they featured the plantations of Woodburn and Ashtabula. And the reason why they made such a high ranking on this one was not only because of their proximity and the surprise of how thorough they are with their attention to detail, but they also made it for effort, because they came out, even though we had a snowstorm, they came out in the snow and still made the event happen. And I gotta tell you, we don't really get much snow in this part of the country. We get maybe 2 days a year, and then usually it melts before it hits the ground. And there was actually a blanket of snow all around the beautiful homes, so that was kind of different to see it in that light, which made them very cold inside. Because one of the things that most people don't realize as a fashion blogger, in the winter these homes are not heated. I mean, yeah, in the winter they're not heated, in the summer there's no AC. So a kudos to effort for them coming out and making the event happen anyway. And I'm going to move on now to number 5. Number 5 is the Watson Mill Bridge. It's in Comer, Georgia, which is in the northern hills of Georgia. And the reason why I chose this one is because it was my daughter's favorite blog post of the entire year. It has the longest surviving covered bridge in the state of Georgia. There used to be hundreds of these covered bridges throughout the state, and now there's only 22 of them surviving, and this is still the longest surviving bridge. And it's so picturesque that it is actually, we're having a hard time getting our pictures because of how many engagement photos and family pictures and other there were so many photographers there. It was almost like the paparazzi had come to follow one of the royals or something. So the royal of I guess Comer, Georgia would probably have to be the Watson Mill Bridge State Park. And also too, when I learned about its history a little bit, I learned that it actually was a whole township that centered around these 2 grist mills, which had everything from a general store to a post office to, you know, and anything and everything that you need in the world you could have gotten by crossing that bridge. So it really connected northern Georgia to the Carolinas as far as a frequent stop for those trying to move their goods for merchants. And for my number 4 slot, I chose Sunflowers over Clemson. And the reason why I chose this particular blog was due to pure joy. It's just, I am a lover of art. Many don't know that I'm also a poet and a painter. So as a painter, I have been very influenced by the French masters, especially Renoir, Van Gogh, and Claude Monet, and they all have wonderful, spectacular pictures with the sunflowers. And so I wanted to be a part of that, and I got to do it that day. And my friend even showed me how to get to this farm that we wouldn't get in trouble for shooting there. So it was just a very joyful pictures, and I got to be part of the art that I love so much. And number 3, I chose the BMW Zentram. And this was a totally different one for me, and very reminiscent to me of the luxury that we can have in this country and in most of Western Europe. And it reminded me of 007. I was waiting for Pierce Brosnan to show up in his tux, or Sean Connery, or one of the 007 agents. And it was neat because it was so interactive. Everybody that worked there seemed to be very knowledgeable on the different cars that were there, on their history, their performance. We even could watch a video on how they put the cars together, and you can see that again live this spring. So for right now, they're using a film strip, but in the spring, they assured me that the live presentation of watching them assemble a beautiful BMW would be back. So that took up my number 3 slot. And number 2, this one's really touching. It was really a hard call between number 1 and number 2, because number 2 really represents me. I've always loved trains and loved train travel. And that's another thing that I really kind of study and follow. And my favorite period of literature and probably of fashion would be the 1920s, the Roaring Twenties and the flappers and the dropped waistlines and the little hats and the pearls and I don't know, and even onto their artwork. But I chose that one because my favorite book of all time is The Great Gatsby. And so I tried to recreate that look using my daughter and her boyfriend as my models for that particular one. And it was my first attempt ever to combine fashion and history. So without further ado, I know I've been talking for a long time, but I started this blog because I used to be a model for Vidal Sassoon. And I know I'm not thin anymore. I got that. But that doesn't mean I can't express myself through fashion. And it also doesn't mean that I'm not the same person on the inside, because I really am the same person on the inside. But also too, I love history, and I just wanted a way to express myself. And I'm so glad that I got to take all of you along with me. And I hope you'll stay tuned, because I believe that the best thing that we can wear in life is a smile. So I hope that my grandma used to say that the beginning of any friendship is a smile. So I hope that I have given you a smile or two along the way. But I wanted to, without further ado, announce my first selection, my number 1 blog of my favorite of all time. It's probably my favorite blog that I've ever done, whether it's this year or the first year I did, which was 2016, is Dirty Dancing. This year, Dirty Dancing celebrated their 30th anniversary. It's probably my second most favorite movie, about the 60s and a girl's coming of age kind of story, but it had handsome Patrick Swayze dancing along the way. And I actually got to be at Baby's condo and see where Johnny kissed her, and you know, I saw the stairs that she ran up and down. And the weather was perfect, and it was a beautiful day, and you can't go wrong when you're in Lake Lure, North Carolina. So I just really love Dirty Dancing. But anyway, so that was my number 1 pick. But you're going to get your chance to pick. Because what's happening in 2018, since this is a New Year's blog, in 2018, I'm going to hit my 50th fashion blog in March, near my 50th birthday. So I decided to share my joy with all of you. I'm going to have giveaways. You have to subscribe to my blog and vote for your favorite blog, and you'll be entered to win fashion conscious kind of prizes. There's a couple of books in the work. I have a lot of accessories, and I even might have some clothing giveaways. So you need to stay tuned for that. And until then, stay fashionable and stay blessed. Bye.